can bigger, bolder, faster. Boom, going to the maximum. Going to the maximum. Going to the maximum.
All right, how is everybody? We're at the end. Are you ready? Are we ready? Come on now, I know we got some energy in here. We got some energy in here? All right. We're going to talk about a topic. And one of the things that I noticed so far is that we have such a diverse group in here from, people that know everything about crypto. We have a bunch of know-it-alls in here. I saw the ones that were just standing there at the end. And then we have a bunch of newbies that don't know anything. So we're actually going to do a deep dive today into what decentralization actually is. Now, just if I can get a show of hands, who here knows the definition of decentralization? Okay. All right. More people than I thought. There's like 3. There's like 3 of you. I'm just kidding. There's more of you. Some of you are just being shy. All right. So I have a bunch of great panelists here with me today, and we're going to talk about decentralization. And I think we'll just start with you, Jim. What is your definition of decentralization?
So to keep it simple, decentralization is such a jargon term. I just say decentralization is basically, it's sharing. Sharing is caring.
Sharing is caring. What about you, Vilma?
For me, it's distribution of power and decision-making from central authority to multiple authorities. This, for example, applied to Bitcoin is distribution of nodes and therefore distributed payments.
That's a very important factor there, right? Because especially what we've seen with some of these centralized exchanges, right? How important decentralization is, especially as of late. And Dato, your definition, sir?
Normally, we have to trust someone to make any transaction or to create something. Because of the power of decentralization, it is a trustless system for all of us.
Trustless system. I've had an honor to meet so many amazing people here and even work with some really crazy people. You guys have probably heard the term smart contract so many times, right? And the cool part about a smart contract is that it is a trustless contract. If you think about engaging with somebody, let's just say that we want to get a loan. And we go to a friend. Has anybody here ever loaned money to a friend? Anybody? Nobody? Okay, let me flip that around. Who here has taken a loan from a friend? Okay, more hands. Okay, all right. And what happens when you do that loan? It's a trust thing. You have to trust that the person that you're either giving money to or taking money to, they have to trust that you're going to repay that loan. And something that's very interesting about smart contracts is that it gives you the ability to have a trustless relationship where you don't have to trust because you've built into the code that if something happens, then something will happen, right? And I think that that's a fundamental piece of decentralization. So with that said, that kind of gave us a good head start. Jim, I'm going to circle back to you. What is the benefit, the main benefit that you feel in decentralization?
Actually, that's probably the biggest one is the trust factor. So when I say sharing is caring, people, it's great to share, but a lot of times in a world that people who share more, the people who don't share, there is an imbalance between the two. So what's really incredible about decentralization and smart contracts and this whole Web3 thing is that trustless component of it. It allows for myself, who I love to share, and trust, but verify. So the verification piece, I think, is such a critical component of this, that's all part of the technology and why it has the power to unlock so much of even human behavior in a way that's never existed before. Because now we have a system that allows for this decentralization. And it was interesting, each one of us had a different definition of what decentralization is. And that's actually really incredible about this ecosystem too. It has the dynamism and the flexibility for each one of us to be able to take a different approach on this and see another value add. So you see 4 participants here who are taking a take on this whole economy or system or this community and able to derive what we are looking for in that. So I think having the infrastructure, the technology, the built-in systems in place to allow for so many of the things that we have always wanted to do, but we're in an imbalanced system where people are always taking. That's where I think there's so much power in just in that trustless component where we can really be able to give. And that's what I love about the Web3 community. There's so many people who want to give, and now we're finally given an opportunity to give and also receive as well. So,
You know, that's exactly it. And I think it's funny because now that we've already had these definitions of what decentralization is, but we're kind of all coming together on the benefits, right? Like we can all kind of see the benefits. And there's so many different ways to use decentralization. You're seeing governments starting to actually come to it, and I know there's been lots of talk about government implementation of it, and how, you know, some governments might not want to use the blockchain because it's too much transparency, right? If you do not like transparency, you do not like blockchain, right? So as far as decentralization goes, what do you think the best application of decentralization goes, Vilma?
You were previously speaking about loans, so obviously access to capital, access to loans.
Decentralized
such as,
finance,
for example,
right?
Decentralized finance, specifically loaning that, for example, Aave provides, but also governance, the capability of being able to participate as a community, being visible, but also being publicly anonymous, but still being identified that you took this action without anybody knowing who was it, but that you have taken it.
That's really important. What about you, Tato?
For me, based on history, these are the first ever in our best time history that something that come out, innovation, so that the consensus can be gained through the community itself. Give back the power to the community itself.
You know, that's actually what I was going to echo. You know, for me, decentralization, what's important for me is I'm a gamer. You guys saw that I'm part of the crypto gaming team, something I started. And for me, I think about how many years of my life, I don't want to date myself, how many years of my life have been gone, maybe 4 or 5 hours a day as a kid playing video games. And it goes all the way back. All right, who here has played like Mario Brothers? Come on. Who's got Mario Brothers? Somebody? All right. So Mario Brothers, I want you guys to think about how much we've been set up for the blockchain before it even existed. Mario Brothers is literally a game where you jump around and you smash bricks and you collect coins, right? And then what happens? You go and you go and you go, and maybe you use a couple cheat codes. Maybe you find that flute if you're playing Mario Brothers 3. And then you skip a couple levels. And then what happens? As soon as you turn the game off, it's all gone, right? So isn't that a little interesting? Because now for me, I believe that decentralization is a really great tool for us to actually have ownership inside games. Now, instead of just logging off and resetting all my stuff, and the game developer has, you know, all the control, is now I actually have all those coins. And if, hey, maybe I have those 1,000 coins to get my free one up, I can sell you my free one up. Right? So it just expands so many opportunities. And I'm sure many of you guys have so many ideas of how you're using decentralization in your own lives, right? And here's what I want to know. How will decentralization affect businesses? And when I say this, I mean, think about businesses that have not quite adopted the blockchain, which is like 99% of them, 99.999. How do you believe decentralization is going to be integrated into our current businesses that are not blockchain friendly?
So I come from an architectural and real estate background. The implications of decentralizations are vast. It's going to revolutionize how we interact with real estate, which is a component of everyone's life. You have to live somewhere, you have to pay rent, buy a house, get a mortgage, all those things. So I see actually the two probably maybe most boring versions of this are real estate and insurance. Once insurance is part of decentralization, or decentralization comes into insurance, it's going to revolutionize everything. But even from an architect, decentralization in design, or how you can share design or integrate design, there are so many untapped creator tools about to be unleashed or unlocked in this capacity. How do you give over ownership over a design, or share ownership over a design, or give creatorship over a design to someone who's not the original designer? What if someone takes a house and builds upon it, or makes a modification, or a developer does that? How is all that tracked on the blockchain and decentralized, or in my terms, shared with the people who are actually taking those designs and actually living in those homes. So even from a real estate, architecture, design, the spaces we inhabit, when you overlay decentralization or a sharing economy where every person can participate in that, all of that value locked in, someone said $400 trillion worth of money is stored into real estate globally. How much of that, if you take fractions of that and share with this community here in the Philippines, it's game changing in so many industries. I'm getting so excited just thinking about it.
And not to mention, I mean, we see a move, not even in Web3, right? We see a move pretty much everywhere. Even Robinhood app, you can buy fractional shares, right? I mean, fractional shares already exist. It's already a proven model for NFTs. So this is something that I think is absolutely intriguing. Thank you for sharing that. What about you, Vilma? What do you think?
I would say that, of course, increasing auditability. For example, if government voting systems are decentralized, community can much more better participate as well as have a visibility of their decision. Therefore, from the transparency perspective, decentralization implemented, for example, to supply chain management, for traceability of food, for quality control, for overall manufacturing processes, as well as even, for example, for fashion. So right now, instead of, I just yesterday invested in a company that was fractionalizing sneakers, right? So there comes additional value, additional asset classes that we didn't thought about before, because we give community the power to be able to influence, and I would say in not just decision making, but also in, for example, storage. So decentralized storage of information instead of centralized cloud servers, such as, for example, Google Cloud or Microsoft Cloud. So I think it's rethinking information and giving the benefits of each individual's contribution to the internet value, because right now, obviously, we are just giving our data for free. So I would say decentralized cloud systems and distributed storage, definitely very, very interesting use cases for decentralization.
You know, it just made me think about like how many use models there even is. Like just listening to you two already, there's even things I'm like, oh, I didn't think about that, you know? And it's so interesting too, because you know, if you think about what the future looks like, and you know, maybe I'm going to get some people mad in here. I know we have some sponsors that are banks, but you know, I usually it comes down to if people do not want to integrate into a blockchain, it usually becomes something of a control issue. They want to have more control, and of course, there's models of why it would make sense to have control over things than other people. But it also makes me think about how many computers are out there mining Bitcoin and how much they could be also put to use for shared file systems or, you know, running processors for a million different apps that we could right? All these dApps that we could come up with, decentralized apps. And it's mind-boggling to think. We're like a hive right now, guys. Like all of us who participate in crypto, I'm just curious, who here, anybody here mine crypto? Like do people have their computers running? Yeah. So wouldn't that be cool if you could actually get paid to leave your computer on, you're mining Bitcoin, you're providing internet for somebody, you're providing some sort of utility. Like that's where I believe that the real decentralization effect is going to happen, where we're all kind of coming together in community. And I think that's a big model that works for me. What about you, Dato?
From my experience, I already start development and experiment into crypto and blockchain since 2016. Almost 5 years ago. At that moment, not many people understand the technology. Even my own country, Malaysia, also skeptical about the idea of cryptocurrency at the moment. But now everything has changed. But even though everything has changed, we're still early. We all agreed we're still early in this game, right? So, as we can see many booths here in this Philippine event. There's a lots of play to earn games. There's lots of innovative way on how to earn money just doing crypto game, just doing something or keep something or trading. So this is a new way of earning something and getting something just doing by own self, not rely on something else.
I want you to keep that microphone because I think you're going to have some great input on my next question. My next question is, how do we solve the hurdles that we're facing right now to get businesses to adopt decentralization?
I think from time to time, people will adopt that. Similar like internet. You can see that there's lots of media at that moment that's skeptical on internet. So it's same as the crypto right now.
Do you think it's because it's new and people are afraid, or do you think it's a lack of resources? Maybe they don't know how the developers work, they don't know the technology, people are afraid because they just don't understand it. People are afraid of things they don't understand.
Yeah, I agree to that. People tend to afraid something new. Yeah.
What about you? I mean, what do you think, how are we going to overcome, what are these obstacles and how can we overcome them?
I would say the obstacle is accessibility, understanding. 99% of the population don't know how to code Solidity or Rust. So I would say no code solutions, because if you look at the website, before we had Wix or WordPress, people didn't know how to build their website. So right now, if we put no code solutions, templates for smart contracts, templates for dApps, templates for implementation, I expect that even government will integrate the solutions faster, because government itself, they don't have a blockchain team in-house to be able to technically support the operations. Same goes with Fortune 500s. Even if they once integrate blockchain, they cannot monitor or they cannot be hands-on on the technology due to the fact that they don't have knowledge. So if you look at the overall crypto ecosystem, why is Coinbase one of the most valuable companies? Because it has two buttons, buy and sell. So I expect that once we have more accessible technologies and more simple ways to implement blockchain and smart contracts to enterprise operations and for government, we will have a higher adoption.
That's, I think that's like a mic drop moment, because I think of it this way too. Like, I remember back in Web1 days, right? Which, by the way, Web1's still a big deal. I mean, we all have websites, right? But before WordPress builders, like, think of all the drag and drop builders. Like, literally, if you can't make your own website today, you go on Theme Forest, you download a theme, and you update your photo and change the text, and you look professional in like 10 minutes. You know what I mean? All right, let's say an hour if you're slow. We need those tools. We need codeless tools in the blockchain where we can actually do things and not have to have a $700,000 a year Rust developer, or have a whole dev team to figure out and troubleshoot things and whatever else. Like, because that's why businesses are. I mean, look at Fiverr. A Canva. That's what we need. We need the Canva. We need the Canva. That's what we need, right? We need something drag and drop, right?
Definitely.
What about you, Jim?
I think that part of that is also going to be the biggest block we have obstacle is really the wallet. Getting people into a wallet, that's like the biggest hurdle. If we can get that solved, it's a major problem, obviously. I come from more on the NFT side. So NFTs, we're seeing a lot of projects and a lot of collaborations with Web2. And what we're seeing is starting to see a growing trend of Web2 integrations, so with an email as opposed to a wallet. Some of the larger Web2 corporations have the ability to bridge the gap between the two. And so that's going to be, I think, at a deeper integral cut at this is having that ability to go there. And so working with understanding how to make it more accessible, I think is really going to be the biggest problem that we need to really solve for. And I think the wallet is probably the biggest component of that, and switching into just getting more people accessibility.
Let's go a little deeper on that. Now, I don't want to get too technical with the crowd, but I think this is very simple and we can explain it. If you are trying to bridge mass adoption, you're putting together, let's just because I like games, let's say we're making a game. Custodial or non-custodial?
So when I started in NFTs in January of 2021, the conversations we were having, this is more the US market, was had to be on-chain and it had to be non-custodial. There was a lot of very, very jargony.
You know what? Let's defeat the jargon. Why don't you tell everybody what a custodial wallet is and a non-custodial wallet is?
So custodial wallet means someone has custody of your key, your crypto. Like a Coinbase, for example, would be custodial. Non-custodial is MetaMask. That's something that I control. No one else can touch that. So it was really important that my key is my crypto. I control it. I control my destiny. That's the only way you can actually engage in this kind of environment. Having it on-chain, it had to be on-chain. There could be no centralized server, Amazon, AWS-based component to any of this ecosystem. There was a very strong, bias towards that. And as new cycles of new users have come on and mass adoption has come on, that has started to go by the wayside, and for good reason. I think we have to go more into a modality of 2.5, get there first, get more people on board, then you can get into the more advanced things. So I think this is where being able to work with more Web2 based concepts and start to have an easier integration into it has to be part of what we're looking for. We cannot go back to a year ago where it's all about how things were done. Even us, the moves at the velocity that we are moving at, you're already seeing people who already have strong biases towards doing certain things in a certain way, and you're kind of centralizing that. So if you really want to go decentralized in fact and in behavior, I think we all have to keep adjusting to the new waves of adoption that are going to happen. So we all have to kind of keep an open mind towards that.
Yeah, and you know what? I think that there's actually a good blend of things. I've seen some of the projects that I was in. Shout out to my friends at OpenBlocks. It's on the Avalanche network, but they did something really brilliant when they launched this new game called Runblocks, and it's kind of like Stepin, where you buy a pair of NFT sneakers, and when you actually when you downloaded the app from the App Store, it actually created a wallet for you automatically, but then it gave you the seed phrase, so you owned it. So it was obviously a wallet that you own, which is important, which would be a non-custodial wallet, obviously. But one of the things that's really important, guys, to understand here is that we want to figure out the blend between how do we make things easy to adopt and for people to come in, but at the same time protect people to have control, right? Because that's one of the things about decentralization is that we own it, right? Like the no keys. If you don't own the keys, you don't own the crypto, right? You look at the exchanges that have gone under. Why did everybody lose their money? Because it was in a wallet that somebody else owned. They did not own it, right? So let's take this to the last question. This is the last question here. What is a decentralized business model that you know is going to work? I'm talking certainty. I'm not talking theories. What is a model you know is going to work? Vilma, she's ready.
I would say loaning, but mostly enterprise loaning and not 50% collateral due to the fact that our dear market goes minus 80% every 4 years. So I would say collateralized loaning definitely works, as well as governance solutions, bringing decision-making power to people, and obviously there are multiple industries. I would also say insurances work very well as quality control, for example.
That was great. Dato?
For me, 100% non-custodial way to go. Yeah.
I think in this industry in particular, there's no guarantees. Do you own research?
Trick question. There's no guarantee.
So yeah, definitely have to keep that in mind. But I think, for me, NFTs in particular, crypto to some degree, and this whole Web3 space, it's really an emotional experience. There's so much emotion, there's so much human psychology that really needs to be addressed and understood, and you have to adjust to that. So for me, the business models that will be successful will be the ones that understand how human behaviors work and operate. Some of that Web2 has defined that to a T. We can take those things and adjust them or adapt them to where we have to go. But I'll say if there's anything that I can stand in front of this audience and say, with a guarantee, human behaviors will never change. Keep that in mind as you go into Web3. Fear, greed, love, passion, all those things, excitement will play out in different ways perhaps, but they will be present. Those who can move according to those principles or philosophies and understand how humans behave and think and do, which is blockchain, by the way, can track, that's where the success will come from.
Thank you guys so much for joining us on this panel. I hope that you guys have learned a lot. And let's give it up to all these panelists. Thank you guys so much.
Philippine Blockchain Week. See you next year.